The darkness was absolute. Then came the hum, deep and rising, like a breath held too long, finally exhaled. A flicker of blue light danced across dust-choked panels as honor-bound systems stuttered back to life. For over a millennium, the warship had drifted in silence at the edge of the Andromeda expanse, cloaked and forgotten, orbit decaying but never breaking. Inside Cryochamber 01, the temperature rose 1 degree, then 2, then enough to make skin remember pain. The stasis pod hissed open with a reluctant wheeze. Commander Elara Voss gasped as if surfacing from a dreamless ocean. Her breath turned to fog in the still cold air. Vital signs stabilizing, came a fractured voice. "Welcome back, Commander." She rolled to her side and coughed hard. "Sentinel." The AI's voice glitched. "System integrity, 63%. Partial cognitive modules online." Elara blinked rapidly, forcing her vision to focus. The chamber was dim, stripped of the shine she remembered. The walls bore scorch marks. One cryopod beside hers was cracked open, empty. The others were dark dead. "What's our status?" she asked, her voice raw. "Stasis duration, 1,211 years, Sentinel replied. "No crew remaining. Hull integrity, 41%. Reactivation triggered by deep space beacon proximity." "Where are we?" "Sol system periphery. Moonbase signal faint but active. No known human life signs detected outside this vessel." Elara swung her legs over the side of the pod, her muscles protesting with every move. Her memories returned in jagged flashes, soul burning, fleets falling, the command to vanish. Not retreat, vanish. "We were losing," she murmured. "We executed Exodus Protocol," Sentinel confirmed. "You were designated Sentinel Class, Contingency Alpha." She stood fully, breathing deeply. The air still tasted like ozone and dust. Her hand instinctively found the wall, steadying herself as she made her way out of the cryo bay. The hallway beyond was warped, bulkheads twisted by time and micro-impacts. Elara reached the bridge. The command chair was half-melted. Screens flickered weakly, but she was alive and honor-bound, for all its scars, still responded to her touch. "Begin external scan. I want eyes on the Sol system." The star map materialized. Earth was gone. Nothing remained but asteroid debris and radiation. Mars was barely holding orbit. But there, deep beneath the Martian surface, a pulse. Faint. Familiar. "Elara," Sentinel said, quieter now. "A legacy node has reactivated. Presumed human origin transmission detected. Encrypted military signature. Yours." A chill ran through her. "Patch me through." Static. Then a voice. Hers, recorded centuries ago. "To whoever hears this, if you are human, if you remember Earth, then it's time. Awaken. Reclaim." She said nothing for several moments. "Broadcast that signal again," she ordered finally. "Loop it. Across all frequencies." "Commander," Sentinel warned. "Galactic networks will detect. Let them." As the message pulsed into space, Elara turned toward the central display. Her own face stared back, drawn, exhausted but resolute. The last commander of a forgotten species. "Sentinel, are there any records of contact from the Galactic Council?" "Last known contact, year 6691 GST. Status, hostile. Humanity was declared an unstable anomaly. Suppression was authorized." She leaned forward, gripping the console. "Then they'll come. When they do, I want to be standing." There was a pause before Sentinel responded. "Armory access granted." The bulkhead doors hissed open to reveal a sealed chamber. Inside, dust-covered but intact, was her armor. Sleek, matte black with gold trim. Carved into the chest plate was a name, Sol's Wrath. An hour later, Elara stood on the observation deck as the warship began turning toward Mars. The engines groaned, systems rebooting piece by piece. In the distance, a faint glimmer on sensors marked a small vessel breaking from warp. A probe, likely Varn in origin. "They're listening," she said. "Yes," Sentinel confirmed. "Galactic Dominion protocols dictate immediate suppression of human reactivation events." Elara stared at the stars, her jaw clenched. Let them come. High above the glittering clouds of Southern Prime, the Unity spire shimmered like a blade stabbed into the sky. Inside, beneath vaulted ceilings of living crystal and circuits older than most species, the Galactic Peace Assembly sat in tense silence. High Chancellor Vectharn stood at the center of the circular hall, his translucent silver skin pulsing with cold light. His four eyes blinked in perfect sequence as he projected the intercepted signal into the chamber. The room dimmed. The human message echoed again. If you are human, if you remember Earth, then it's time. Awaken. Reclaim. The silence that followed was not confusion. It was fear. A shrill voice cracked the stillness. This is a trick. A digital ghost. Nothing more. No, Vectharn's voice was calm, deliberate. This signal is active. It came from the soul remnants. From a functioning human dreadnought. A ripple of unease moved through the delegates. The humans are extinct, said Grand Minister Schalf of the Varia Accord. They vanished without a trace. Exactly, said Vectharn. Not destroyed. Not surrendered. They chose to disappear, and now they've returned. A screen expanded behind him, showing a rough image of Honorbound from the approaching probe. Its hull bore the unmistakable emblem of the old Terran Federation. Damage lined every visible surface, but it moved with purpose. Then what do you propose, Chancellor? Asked a delegate from the Cardan High Triumph. Vectharn folded his long fingers. Immediate containment. Before others hear that voice and remember. Gasps and murmurs rose from across the chamber. Containment? Echoed Minister Aelin from the Athari clans. You want to attack first? Without provocation? Vectharn turned slowly. Provocation was Earth. Provocation was Mars. Provocation was every act of war and rebellion that followed their arrival in the stars. Do you forget how many worlds burned before they vanished? Aelin stood firm. And how many did they save? Humanity was not just fire. They were awakening. A deep growl came from the Choric delegate. They were chaos. Exactly. Vectharn raised a hand, silencing further comment. Our galaxy has known peace for 9 centuries. The Dominion thrives. Trade, cooperation, order, all maintained without their interference. Humanity's return is an existential threat. On the far end of the chamber, a younger voice spoke up. They were like us. The delegates turned toward the Laris Enclave representative, barely into her second decade. They were flawed, she continued, but they had something the rest of us lacked. Will, creativity, madness, yes, but also brilliance. We studied their relics. We still build from what they left behind. Vectharn nodded slowly, which is why they must never rise again. The tools they abandoned are dangerous enough. Imagine what they do alive. He looked to his adjutant. Deploy suppression fleets. All available Dominion-class vessels. Eliminate the source of the signal. Quietly, the assembly erupted. You'd risk open war. You overstep your authority. Let the council vote. But Vectharn had already turned away. Humanity was not destroyed. That was our first mistake. We won't make it twice. Far from the chamber, on the outer defense ring of the spire, Commander Trell of the Kiridan Navy reviewed the classified footage alone. The image of Alara Voss filled the screen. Her armor scarred, her expression unreadable. But her eyes. He leaned closer. You're alive, he whispered. He remembered the stories. Ancient, half-banned recordings of Terran strategy and sacrifice. His great-grandmother had fought alongside them during the Dominion crisis. She'd said humans bled for their allies, but they didn't run from fire. They became it. A new alert blinked on his screen. Fleet deployment orders. Suppression protocol. He stared at them, then at the woman on the screen, and hesitated. On a small diplomatic courier vessel departing Unity Spire, Aelin of the Athari opened a private channel. The voice that answered was filtered, masked. It's happening, Aelin said. Just like you warned. She's back. Is it confirmed? Yes. Vectharn's already sent the fleet. Silence on the other end. Then we're out of time. I'll leak what I can. But if they find me, you'll be remembered. Just like them. The line cut. Aelin closed his eyes. Back in the assembly, Vectharn returned to his private chamber. The windows offered a panoramic view of Sothan's moons, but he didn't look at them. Instead, he stared at a relic encased in crystal, a human blade. Old steel, simple, worn. A gift from a long-dead Terran ambassador. He'd kept it not as a trophy, but as a warning. "You should have stayed gone," he murmured, watching the stars. "Now you'll be erased." The Martian sky was no longer red. A thin layer of soot and scattered debris drifted through the atmosphere like ashes trapped in time. What had once been a symbol of human ambition now lay in quiet ruin. But beneath the fractured surface, something ancient still pulsed, a steady signal, buried deep, calling Alara home. Honor-bound hovered just above the dust-choked ground, thrusters stirring the silence. Its engines whined low, the way old ships do when they remember how to breathe again. "Coordinates locked," Sentinel reported. "Subsurface vault detected. Human architecture. Sealed tight." Alara stood at the edge of the open ramp, armor sealed, helmet under one arm. Mars had changed. It wasn't just decay. It felt like memory turned to stone. "Open the hatch," she said. She dropped onto the surface, boots sinking slightly into the gray-red dirt. Cracks spidered beneath her as she walked toward the coordinates, each step disturbing centuries of stillness. An access shaft jutted from the ground, half-buried and fused shut. She knelt, brushed away sand, and found a seal. TFS, command node, Mars 4X. "Manual override?" she asked. "Working," Sentinel replied. A moment passed. Then the door shuddered and hissed open with reluctant breath. Warm, stale air rolled out. Lights flickered in greeting as she descended the narrow stairwell. The vault below was untouched. Screens lined the curved walls. Every console bore dust, but none were broken. As Alara walked through, emergency lighting illuminated in slow succession, as if recognizing her presence. She stepped into the main chamber, circular, shielded, and still running on backup power. In the center stood a crystalline core, faintly glowing. A figure waited beside it. Not a person. A hologram. Male. Mid-40s, military cut, sharp eyes. "Commander Voss," it greeted. "Authorization confirmed." "Who are you?" "Command Echo. Admiral Ryland Core. Final AI imprint, bound to the Exodus Protocol." Alara nodded once. "Why was I left behind?" The AI tilted its head. "You weren't. You volunteered." She stiffened. "Explain." The chamber lights dimmed. A projection bloomed across the ceiling. Dozens of human ships disappearing into phase space, pursued by Dominion dreadnoughts. We didn't retreat. We fragmented. Some uploaded. Others vanished into fringe dimensions. We couldn't win the war, but we could outlast the galaxy. You volunteered to remain, to wake if the signal ever returned. I don't remember choosing. You asked us to erase the choice, to protect your objectivity. But make no mistake, this was yours. Alara turned from the projection, jaw tight. "What now?" she asked. The AI walked through the table, motioning toward a side terminal. "There are surviving assets. Dreadnoughts. War A's. Legacy units scattered in deep stasis caches. Hidden, encrypted, but they require authorization. Yours." Alara placed her hand on the pad. The chamber vibrated as the network engaged. Star maps began forming in midair, nodes across star systems lighting up. Sentinel's voice crackled through her comms. Signal spread confirmed. 2 nodes have already begun reactivation. How long until they come? A pause. Varn vessels inbound. Fast. Warpath trajectory. Less than 6 hours. Alara stared at the hologram. "Can we hold them off?" "No," the AI said bluntly. "But you can remind them who we are." Back on the surface, Alara emerged under the growing light of Phobos. She squinted toward the sky. In the distance, small flashes bloomed, orbital shifts. Ships dropping from slip space. Varn colors. She sprinted back to Honorbound. "Sentinel, bring weapons online. Prep point defense, and signal all awaken nodes." "Done." 3 units responding. Estimated deployment in progress. The engines ignited. As the ship lifted, Alara looked down at the Martian vault, the quiet heart of humanity's return. Broadcast to all frequencies, she said. Open message. A pause. Then, recording. She inhaled once. This is Commander Alara Voss of the Terran Federation. Humanity did not fall. We did not vanish. We endured. We adapted. And now, we remember. She nodded. In transmission. Send it. Above Mars, the first Varn destroyer locked weapons. Inside the bridge, Subcommander Veltax studied the human dreadnought with narrowed eyes. Primitive hull. Obsolete profile, his tactical officer noted. Then destroy it, Veltac replied. They never saw the kinetic lance coming. Honor-bound fired once. The lance tore through shields, sliced the Varn ship in two. No warning. No posturing. Just precision. Two more Varn ships began evasive maneuvers. Inside Honor-bound, Alara sat in the captain's chair, eyes scanning readouts. New contacts arriving, Sentinel announced. Human signature confirmed. Dreadnought class. AI piloted. Alara smiled faintly. Then let's show them what they tried to forget. The void burned. Where silence once ruled above Mars. Light now ripped across space in arcs of cannon fire and shield bursts. Honor-bound twisted through the chaos, its engines howling like the ghosts that built it. Commander Alara Voss gripped her command rail as a plasma bolt grazed the hull, scattering sparks through the bridge. The ship rocked but held. Target Varn lead destroyer, she ordered. Full lance array. Zero delay. Firing, Sentinel confirmed. The forward lances ignited. 3 coherent beams converged, punching through layered shielding. The enemy ship spun in a slow, blooming arc of metal and fire. Kill confirmed, Sentinel noted. Another strike followed. Alara didn't flinch. Status on friendly arrivals? 2 human dreadnoughts, fully active, Sentinel replied. The Ashbringer in Cradle's Edge. AI controlled, linked to your command net. Patch them through. A holographic window snapped open. The image of a woman shimmered into view. Angular face, synthetic eyes. Not human. Not quite. The AI from Ashbringer. Commander, it said, voice smooth, precise. Authorization acknowledged. Engagement sequence initiated. Behind her, Ashbringer entered the fray. Its hull glowed along ancient pulse lines, weapons bristling from every side. Within seconds, the battlefield shifted. The human ships moved with unnerving intent, no lag between command and action. Where Varn formations relied on hierarchy, coordination, and doctrine, the Terran vessels fought like wolves, unpredictable and fast. Alara, Sentinel said, enemy fleet reorganizing. They've identified our command signature. Good, she said, narrowing her eyes. Let them come. On board the Varn flagship Ultharek, High Marshal Kale T-CharYX stared at the tactical feed in disbelief. Of the initial 8 Dominion ships deployed, 5 were gone. Not disabled, obliterated. The remaining 3 were in full retreat. How are they doing this? One of his officers shouted. Kale's mandibles clicked in agitation. Their tactics are erratic, incomplete, but efficient. Their ships, primitive in appearance, are responding faster than ours. AI run, the officer asked. Kale's eyes narrowed. No, this is no automation. This is war memory. He leaned forward, gesturing to zoom in on Honor-bound. That's not a ghost ship. That's a general. Missile volley incoming, Sentinel warned. The view ahead bloomed with hundreds of guided projectiles. Alara didn't hesitate. Countermeasures. Launch flat cloud and deploy mirror shield. Explosive shells burst in front of the ship, creating a sphere of interference. Simultaneously, the mirror shield projected dozens of false echoes, tricking half the missiles into chasing ghosts. The rest collided with the cloud, detonating harmlessly, absorbed into the artificial debris field. Alara stepped toward the central holomap. Have Ashbringer and Cradle's Edge execute pattern breakfall. We punched through their core line and split the formation. Executing, the dreadnoughts accelerated. Their hulls flashed with activated burn channels. Ancient Terran propulsion tech designed to shatter mass and momentum loss. Within seconds, they tore through the heart of the Varn line, weapons lighting the dark like stormfire. 3 more Dominion vessels exploded. In the chaos, Alara caught her breath. She looked across her bridge crew, empty chairs, old scars, faint outlines of those who once stood beside her. All gone. Only Sentinel remained. How long can we hold this edge? Not long, the AI replied. They're adapting. Reinforcements will arrive. Numbers will overwhelm us. Unless we hit them harder. She turned to the central terminal. I'm taking control of Ashbringer. Transfer limited override. Commander, AI pilot already operational. I'm not asking for advice. A pause. Then, override accepted. Across the void, Ashbringer changed. Its formation broke from the others. Suddenly, it wasn't just firing, it was hunting. Its moves mirrored Alara's own rhythm. Sharp bursts, precision turns, unpredictable flares. A Varn corvette attempted to flank. Ashbringer rolled mid-arc and fired point-blank from lateral turrets. The smaller ship disintegrated. She's controlling the AI fleet. Kale, T-Char-YX realized aboard Ultharek. She's one of them. A high-command operator. The Dominion Marshal gritted his teeth. Target that ship. All remaining weapons. Focus fire. Now, Honor-bound shook violently as barrage after barrage struck. Shields collapsing, Sentinel reported. Starboard side compromised. Hull breach on deck 3. Alara staggered, but didn't stop. Return fire. Prioritized dorsal batteries. Turrets swiveled, launching energy bolts and kinetic rounds into the flagship. The screen crackled with damage feedback. Alara looked out at the battlefield. Wings of human steel carving through the void. Fewer ships, outnumbered, but alive, and winning. Suddenly, an urgent ping echoed through the bridge. Unidentified transmission, Sentinel said. Encrypted. Human origin signal. Live voice. Put it through. The voice that came through was shaky. Young. Commander Voss, this is Lieutenant Asher Talek. Cryo Unit 17, Pacific Arc Station. We heard your signal. We're awake. We're coming. Alara closed her eyes. Relief surged through her like oxygen. Copy that, Lieutenant. Welcome back. The line cut, but more pings followed. Dozens. Cryo vaults. Ship caches. AI nodes. The message had reached them. Humanity wasn't returning. It had already begun. The battlefield fell still. Burning hulls drifted in low orbit above Mars, casting broken shadows across the red dust below. Crippled Varn vessels pulled back, engines flickering, formation shattered. Human dreadnoughts held their positions, scarred but unbroken. On Honorbound's bridge, alarms had gone quiet. Only the low hum of surviving systems remained. Commander Alara Voss exhaled, slow and controlled. Her fingers uncurled from the armrest. Report, she said. Enemy fleet in full retreat, Sentinel replied. No further engagement. Damage to Honor-bound critical but stable. Reinforcement signals continue. Human units awakening in 14 sectors. Alara turned toward the viewport. In the distance, the Varn flagship limped into warp, disappearing into a fading arc of blue light. They didn't expect us to survive, she said quietly. They never expected us to fight again, Sentinel corrected. On the edge of known space, in the heart of Varn-controlled territory, High Chancellor Vectharn watched the battle feed in silence. The footage cut off just after the Dominion's retreat. None of it made sense. They deployed superior numbers, advanced weaponry, strategic leadership, and lost. A council aide entered, hesitating at the doorway. Chancellor, what are your orders? Vectharn didn't respond. He stood before a hologram of the old Terran flag. Faint, recovered from a centuries-old archive. Blue and black. A single star surrounded by a spiral. They were supposed to be gone, he whispered. Back aboard Honorbound, the transmission deck lit up again, this time from dozens of systems. Alara watched as colony beacons activated, cryopods came online, and hidden Terran vaults across the galaxy signaled readiness. Routing signals, Sentinel said. One link now. Visual. A young woman in fleet armor blinked onto the screen, her cheeks flushed, voice trembling. Commander Voss, this is Captain Yara Mendez of the Silver Ward. We've just awakened. We received your signal. We're operational. Orders. Alara studied her for a beat. The woman looked raw, eager, afraid. You hold position. Gather survivors. Restore power. You're not alone. Mendez nodded sharply. Yes, Commander. The line cut. Another lit up. Then another. A wave growing. Humanity wasn't rallying under a flag. It was rising from the bones of a forgotten past. Self-assembled, stubborn, undeniable. Alara left the bridge. She needed air. Not recycled. Not filtered. Just distance. She walked the corridor to Deck 7, once crew quarters. Now hollow. Bulkheads were scorched, beds long since stripped bare. But as she entered, she noticed something small. A photo, still clipped to a wall panel. Faded but clear. For crew members. Young. Smiling. One had his arms around her, Jace. She'd forgotten that moment. Alara brushed the dust from the frame and tucked it into her armor. Later, from Honor-Bound's communications array, she addressed the galaxy. The message went out unencrypted. Visible. Public. Every Dominion sensor, every outlying colony, every curious world, everyone would hear it. This is Commander Alara Voss of the Terran Federation, she began. We disappeared not out of fear, but to survive. We chose silence over surrender. We chose sleep over extinction. She paused. Let the words settle. And now, we choose to return. Not to conquer. Not to claim. But to remember. Images accompanied her voice. Mars. Honor-bound. The flag. We will rebuild what was lost. And to those who still fear us, remember this. We do not rise in anger. We rise because we were meant to. On a far-off agricultural moon, a child looked up from her work as the message played on a dusty terminal. Her skin was mottled blue, her eyes silver, half human, half Varn. She turned to her grandfather. Is it true? Humans are real. He nodded. They were always real. Just quiet. She stared at the screen. The starships. The voice. The fire. Will they come here? He smiled faintly. They will. Not today, but someday. The child turned back to the screen as the broadcast ended, eyes wide with something the galaxy hadn't felt in centuries. Hope. In a hidden Dominion archive, sealed behind a vault no diplomat had accessed in over 400 years, a lock disengaged. Inside were files marked redacted, humanity classified. One flickered open automatically. Project Paragon. A black and white image of Alara Voss appeared. Text followed. Designation. Final contingency. Status. Active. Threat level. Absolute. Countermeasure. Unknown. Back aboard Honor-Bound, the stars shifted. More signals poured in. Some faint. Some powerful. Some full of static. Others filled with music. Human music. Alara stood again on the bridge, Sentinel beside her. This is just the beginning, she said. Yes, Sentinel replied. But they remember now. Alara's gaze hardened. So will the rest.